Hi friends and welcome. Barb Pask here. Going to paint on a little 5x7 tonight. I think I've got you lined up pretty much right in front of it. Going to paint a still life. I may wait and show you because it's just so hard if I move you to get you back where I'm doing a jar of cherry jam and an apple behind it and a few cherries. I have some wonderful fake fruit. The cherries are fake. I almost threw these in. Look at these little blackberries that I have. They're really great fake fruit now, don't they? They need to create good sliced fake fruit, though. That's something I don't see. Maybe you do where you're at. So, could tone it. I think I'm just going to start off and put a sketch on with paint, and we'll go from there. I'm sorry I'm not showing it to you first. It's just so difficult. I really work to get you set up right, so I hope you don't mind. I'll show it to you toward the end. Going to use my view catcher. I have it set up for, I think, the right format. All right, I'm looking through there, deciding what looks good for composition. I don't want the jar center. I want the jar off. I'm going to push it off to the left. All right, let's look through here. And there's an apple here we're going to run off. Okay, I'm looking approximately where the top of the lid is and the bottom of the jar. I like painting jars of whatever, spaghetti sauce or I just do. I don't know why. These are water mixable oils, so I'm going to dip in just a little touch of water to help us sketch. I'm looking at the height of the lid. I'm looking about how far back this edge is to this edge for my ellipse. And how far down do we hit the label? I listened to Kelly Folsom is her name. She came on Facebook Live tonight, and she calls it a mentorship program that she has online. It's a year long, and they offer a lot of things, critiques, and a lot of help for marketing for you if that's a weak point for you. And it sounded interesting. It's $5,000 though, not cheap. But maybe it would be worth it for you, if you were trying to push yourself further along in your career. Somebody was asking her about price and art, and she's fairly expensive. Like I said, her work is really nice, traditional, beautiful still lifes, but expensive, I think. I know I'm too reasonable. And I'm very affordable for commissions too. But I figure pricing, I've had people ask me about it over the years. I think pricing is a personal thing. You don't want to be resentful of what you sell it for. You want the buyer to be happy, and you want to be happy. And but I know what she's saying. When you undervalue yourself, sometimes people then don't value you. So it's tricky. I'm feeling like the jar could be a little wider. All right, I think we'll start with the jar. Thanks for joining me. Appreciate it so much. Wouldn't be much point in doing this if nobody came to visit, would there? Oh, I was going to ask you guys about something. Give me your feedback on this. I was saying last time it would be nice if you could see everything. See me mix paint, see my setup. I looked at Amazon and they have a head harness that you can mount your, I film with my iPhone, and you can mount your iPhone in this harness. So everywhere I would look, you would look. It might make you dizzy. I don't know, how that would seem. It sounds like it might work, but when I look down and mix paint, you would see what I'm seeing. Then when I go back to paint, and when I look at my setup, of course, like I said, it's going to be moving around a lot more. So give me your thoughts on that. If you think you would rather see everything and move around with me like that. Okay, this cherry preserves is very dark, kind of burgundy. So I'm mixing crimson. I put some ultramarine in there to darken it, and I put some transparent red oxide. And there's not a lot of change in value as we move across. It's catching a little bit of more of a cooler light here, and then of course it's catching a bright reflection. But there's not a big shift in color, though I may decide to mix it up and change it up, as it moves across, just to make it more interesting. So I am doing some different values here. And I'm going to try to stay back across the brush. I've said that many times. Try to keep us loose and painterly. Been painting Santa Clauses. I do that every year. I got a show coming up in a couple weeks, and if I remember, I'll show you one at the end. Nothing I can grab from here, but I do them on little 4x4-inch canvases, and they're fun because every little face looks different from the next. So, some people collect them because, again, they all look different from each other. So, like snowflakes, right? No two alike. A little early for that, but I'm going to stick that in. All right, we're going to get into a little bit of our solvent-free gel. Help the paint move a little bit. So I want it painterly. I'm trying to shift the values a little bit as I move across. And down at the bottom, of course, that cherry's hiding a good part of that. I'm into that cooler color there. probably not the most interesting label, but it's the jar. It was new and it's what I had. So the next little band is a really true red. More red over in that area. And as we move across, I'm going to mix it with some of this color that I put above and below there. Mixing it with some of that. And even more when I get over completely away from the light. I may need to widen that jar, I'm not sure. You know, don't fill in the edges. I've talked about that before. You know, it's not a color book image. You want to keep it loose. Okay, the next row is pink. Now, I have a limited palette. I have Warm and Cool Beach Primary and, of course, white and transparent red, oxide, and Indian yellow. That's my palette. So to make a pink, my choice is, of course, crimson or cad red light. We've got both reds in there, you know, more crimson in there, more cad red light in there. You can try them both and see which pink is more like that. As I'm looking at it, I'm thinking the cad red light's going to be a better choice. But, you know, sometimes it's both, you know. And if we don't nail it, it doesn't matter. Who will know? Stand back on the brush. And sometimes, you know, you get your colors dirty, like I got some of that black in there, and you might have to come back. You do what you have to do. Keep it generous. I can always cut back into it. And this part of the label is, it's kind of yellow. So I'm going to take some of my Indian yellow and some white. I want to darken it up as I move across. So actually I'm going to put all the primaries in there. Yeah, again, you know, if I did buy the strap for my head, you know, when I go off camera like this and I'm mixing, you could see that. So, you know, I could buy it, and then if it makes us dizzy, makes you dizzy, I guess I would quit using it, of course. But, you know, try to imagine what that would be like and tell me if you think that would be good. I don't think it'd be too bad. Like when I'm painting on the painting, you know, I am glancing back and forth at my setup, but I'm not moving my head too much. So it might not be a bad thing. If you paint, you know how it is, you know, you're back and forth mixing and dipping, and I mean, I'm looking at my setup a lot, but my eyes are shifting more than my head. before I move further, I want this side, excuse me, to feel like it's catching the most light. So before I move on, I may brighten up this side a little bit. You know, we can even do that with thicker paint. I keep dirtying this one up, don't I? It's fun. It's a fun label, isn't it? And I have to decide what I want to do about lettering. All right, let's move on. Let's move on to the lid. I'm going to start with my cleanest color first. A little bit challenging having the camera in front like this. I'm looking underneath it and around it, but I hope that you like it. I'm sure it's better. Kind of starting to feel a little like fall. It's not that it's cold, it's just getting dark earlier, and hearing a lot of crickets, and I love fall. Oh, if you live in my area next, let's see, this Sunday I'll be down at Cottle Park. If you're in this area, you probably know where that is, on Irwin Simpson and Snyder Road. They're having their handmade market, they call it. There's about 60 artists and tents, and it's a nice event. But I think I'm going to be painting outside. Maybe try to paint like the festival, like tents. And so if you live in this area, that's Sunday 11 to 5. And the first weekend of October, I'll be at Lakota West. It's their annual art show, and so I've been framing and getting ready for that. Got a new huge banner for pet portraits, 6-foot long banner to put up. That's the main reason I do that show. Working with a big brush like I usually do, for most of the painting anyway. We may switch off. You know, and you could do whatever. You could get as detailed as you wanted with this, with a brush or a palette knife. You know, you could get in here and suggest some of the grooves. Really too early for this. you know, this is detail, which we shouldn't be doing yet. So, but we'll think about that. So there's our blocking on our jar mostly. A little premature for the highlights too. I just threw them on. All right, so let's move on. Let's block in. We've got an apple that's sitting behind here. Far down, it comes down on the jar about that far. I'm not sure about it, but I actually threw red into, I want to cool it off. You know, it's there, but I don't want it to overpower my jar. So you can tell, I think I cooled it off. Maybe not the whole thing, but with cutting it off like that, it's probably a little harder to read as an apple, isn't it? So I'm going to kind of cut into the shape a little bit. And we're going to have a stem on it too. And of course we have to ground it later on. All right, let's look at the cherries. Cherries are fun. I usually use both of my reds and try to start with the darkest part of them like I do most things. So I took some crimson, a little ultramarine, you can even, maybe a little transparent red oxide. Look for the darkest part of the cherry. With this one, it's just up at the top. Make sure I bring him down low enough that the bottom of him does not come even with the bottom of the jar. I'm just following the shape of the cherry. Cherries are fun because they have a little highlights and stems. Getting pretty thick with that. This one back here is not as light. He's setting off to the side of that jar and not near as light. But he does have a little highlight on him. Cherries, sometimes, you know, you can use some pure cad red light on them and it's fun. All right, we got fabric back here and this runs down the front. So let's mix up some color for the background. Let's just keep moving forward. I'm going to rinse my brush a little bit, not too much. All right, we're going to do the background first. going fairly dark. Now let's mix a little white into that, lighten it up. I'm going to go for a little bit of that gel too. Maybe make this move better. I'm going to get into that with some of that background color and lighten it a little bit. And we've got to clean up some shapes here, you know, we're not. All right, let's mix more white into this for the foreground. And I think I'm going to touch a little yellow in there too to warm it up a little bit. Now where on the apple? Okay. I'm getting a little ahead of myself here. Let's put our shadows in. And everything back in there is really in shadow from the jar. Fear not, though, we'll be cleaning up the shapes and stuff, you know. It doesn't feel round too much right now, but we're not worried. I would imagine when you watch me paint, sometimes you just want to yell things out almost, right? You see things that maybe I don't till the end, and or something that bothers you that maybe doesn't bother me, you know. We all paint different. I usually do that when I watch somebody. I'm usually like just waiting for them to do sometimes a certain area, you know, something. This is where I always wished I toned, you know, when I'm painting background in, that I had some color under here. All right, canvas is covered. It's always great. Now let's start looking at things again. That's a pretty bright highlight. Let's cut that back a little bit. If you normally don't paint with a big brush, you should try it. If you want to be loose, it's really great because you just can't control it as well, and you usually end up looser whether you like it or not. This might be the time to get out a somewhat smaller brush. I don't want to mess up my cherries too much. And we'll get out the tiny little brush for some highlights on these cherries. Just look and see where they are and the intensity of them. Sometimes, you know, you really need a bright highlight, sometimes you don't. Bright. So I'm jumping around at this point, you know, I'm kind of just working on everything at once. Just decide how much detail you want. That's up to you. We all paint different. You know, I'm trying to be impressionistic, so I don't want to get too picky, but maybe that isn't how you paint, so. You do you, right? Stem. that apple back there, you know. I may not want it there when it's all said and done. I don't know. Kind of changing the shape of it a little bit. Yeah. I don't know, I'll think about it. May not need it, you know. Another thing is when you set up a still life, the light that you use affects your, like I have a round light, so you tend to get a round highlight on your stuff too. Something to think about too. Not exactly trying to write, you know, letters on there. Label has a lot of stuff going on it. Don't know how important that is to me. It's actually got barns and, you know, I don't know how picky I want to get with it. I'm mostly just putting dots. I'm not really trying to looking at that apple. Part of what I think I don't like about it is I got it too high. To introduce that blue back in. And I could have done the cherry stems with a palette knife. For sure, I mean, that probably would have been good. This stem should come out a lot further. Let's try the palette knife for that. It is actually, you know, and they're not real cherries, so you can see the difference. That one's with a palette knife. Okay, I'm going to, I have that cool on the edge like I see at that jar, but I feel like it gets lost in the background, so I'm going to darken it again. Make it more red. I think that improves it. Little tweaks, right? Just trying things. Try to put a little richer red in that apple. Remember, I had cooled it off, but I'm just trying it. Keep that dark on the edge so it separates from the apple. And as you can see, I ended up with some pretty heavy white on top of that, but you know, I like it. I'm leaving it. I'm an impressionist, maybe you're not, and I like nice little surprises in the painting. When I see other people's paintings, I just don't like explaining everything. But that's me, that may not be you. All right, what do we think? Brightening up that label a little bit more. All right, it's juicy and it's painterly. I have to look at it some more, like always, and decide if I'm going to leave the apple or not. This is kind of bothering me here because it feels like instead of going around, it feels a little squared off. I'm just looking now for any little tweaks that I think I might put a little bit of a darker color under the label. And this would be one to turn upside down if you felt you needed to check and make sure things were symmetrical. All right, let me get up from here. Okay, that's the painting. Pretty juicy and painterly. Let me show you the setup. Take you down. I know it's always a little harder to see when I've got the light on. Let's turn the light off for you. There. It changes it a lot, but you can at least see the objects that way. So, all right, there it is. I think it's fun. A lot of red, but different reds, and I just like doing jars, and I like the lid, and hope you enjoyed it. That was about, what, 48 minutes. That's not bad. So please like and subscribe, hit the notification bell, and then it'll tell you when I upload next time. Thanks again for joining me. Bye-bye.